Donald Trump has tried to craft a narrative, sort of a feeling that this entire Russia meddling, hacking, collusion, Putin thing is just foreign to him, right? He's going along being president, and the fake news media keeps talking about this Russia thing, but it's just not even something that Trump is really aware of. And yeah, the consensus among our intelligence agencies is that it happened. It's just not really on Trump's radar, though. It's a distraction that is very, very tangential to what Donald Trump's awareness includes about geopolitics. And okay, fine, there have been 32 indictments at this point, but it's a witch hunt and it's a distraction. And it's just so confusing to Trump because it doesn't jive with anything else that he knows about. Well, that narrative that Trump just doesn't really get why people are talking about this, if anybody still believed it, has absolutely and totally imploded because the New York Times has now published a stunning blockbuster report which reveals that 2 weeks before Donald Trump's inauguration, not 2 weeks before the recent Helsinki summit, not 2 weeks before the first indictments in the Trump Russia scandal, 2 weeks before Trump became president of the United States, he was shown highly classified information which indicated that Putin personally ordered the cyber attacks that were meant to influence the 2016 election. As the report in the New York Times says, Trump resisted acknowledging it, but at the time, he did seem convinced of this reality. And I want to remind you again, because this is just so key, weeks before the inauguration, this confirms that either Donald Trump has a really acute memory problem, so bad that really he shouldn't be president of the United States, or it confirms that Trump's entire attitude over the last year and a half, 2 years of, I don't know what they're talking about, I don't really believe it. It is, as we predicted, a complete and total farce. And in fact, this New York Times article, which we're going to link to, and I encourage you to read, it's extraordinarily well written and well researched. It points out that there are actually numerous instances when Donald Trump was briefed on Russia and briefed on Russia related intelligence, and at least privately, the indication is that he accepted it. He didn't happily accept it. The word I believe that the New York Times article uses is he grudgingly accepted it, but he did accept it. So this public thing of it could have been anyone, why would Russia do it? It's not ignorance. It's not poor memory by every indication. It's actually a proactive disinformation campaign. And when you look at how Trump publicly sort of casts doubt around the accusations, this actually makes a lot more sense because Trump has tried to create meta narratives rather than denying the specific intelligence and the methods and the sources that we know that Russia has used in the past and uses today. Trump comes up with meta narratives to try to discredit the entire thing. Like, for example, Democrats are leading a witch hunt. It's not an attack on the underlying information. It's just writing it off as politics. Another example that in July of last year, Donald Trump tried to go with was that Putin's Putin and the Russians' cyber hacking skills are so good that if Russia really did do it, there wouldn't be any fingerprints on it because Russia is so good at covering their tracks. Or, for example, another meta narrative that Donald Trump has used is that the intelligence community just can't be trusted, it's not reliable, or it's been politically subjugated. And still, it's hard to get consensus about the crisis that this represents. And one of the fundamental tenets of the type of government that we have, like if you believe in representative democracy to the extent that we have it in the United States, and of course, the extent to which we have it is increasingly sort of questionable, you have to have elected officials that have been elected by the people they're governing, right? And if Russia influenced the election, we violated that basic principle. And when you have a president who not only has had the knowledge of this for years, but continues to publicly deny it, those denials become increasingly concerning. And if Donald Trump truly believed that the story wasn't real, that it either wasn't Russia or that it didn't happen at all, okay, the guy's a moron. And that's one type of problem that we would have to deal with. But what's become stunningly clear in the last couple of weeks, but especially with this new New York Times report, is that Trump does know what's going on, and he's known about what was going on since 2 weeks before the inauguration, and the denials and the misdirection and the counter narratives are a proactive disinformation campaign, and I believe that that makes them worse. And the effort started very quickly, because let's go back to a tweet from 5 days after Donald Trump was briefed back in January of 2017 about the Russian meddling, and he, again, grudgingly accepted it. Intelligence agencies should never have allowed this fake news to leak into the public, said Trump. One last shot at me. Are we living in Nazi Germany? That's January of 2017. Trump already knew that he was telling untruths. And then just 5 weeks after the briefing, also back in 2017, Donald Trump tweeting, "This Russian connection nonsense is merely an attempt to cover up the many mistakes made in Hillary Clinton's losing campaign." We now know, because of the reporting of the New York Times, that Trump knew what he was saying wasn't true back when he said it in 2017. It wasn't ignorance, it was dishonesty. And then, of course, he fired James Comey, and he did everything else that we know that he did. And the context within which we understand that has been radically altered by knowing that Trump, weeks before the inauguration, accepted the realities of the intelligence community reporting on this. But as usual, what do we come to? What do we come to every time we uncover another layer of the atrocities that were committed? We come to, what do? Republican Party is not going to hold them accountable. It's not clear to me that voters are going to hold Trump and Republicans accountable in November. So what happens next? I don't have the answer. I wish I had the answer. If this doesn't end the presidency, not by itself, but as the culmination of this building story that we've now had for weeks, for years rather, I don't know that anything will. And that's probably the most depressing reality that we've got to come to terms with. Send me your thoughts about this report and whether there will ever be repercussions and consequences for what we now know took place. I'm on Twitter at @dpakman, and the show is on Twitter at David Pakman Show.
Today's program was made possible in part by Blinkist.com/Pakman. I love Blinkist. It's the really perfect app for anybody who likes politics and learning. And if you're watching or listening to the David Pakman Show, I'm sure you love politics and learning. And what Blinkist does is take the best and most popular nonfiction books, they condense them into 15-minute audiobooks that you can listen to in one sitting, and you can learn about politics, philosophy, psychology, economics. Often, we don't have the time to actually read as many books as we would like. I know that I'm at my limit for how much I can read, and this way, you can absorb the most important, valuable information from books in just 15 minutes, maybe on your way to work, maybe on your way to the gym, maybe cooking vegan recipes at home, whatever is your thing. And our audience can get a 7-day free trial by going to Blinkist.com/Pakman. If you're watching on YouTube, I've put a link in the video description. And after the free trial, if you like it, and I think you will, you can continue enjoying thousands of condensed audiobooks for just about $5 a month. You can go to blinkist.com/PAKMAN to sign up.